विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन् आत्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये दूर्वादलद्युतितनुं तरुणाब्जनेत्रम् हेमाम्बरं वरविभूषणभूषिताङ्गम् कन्दर्पकोटिकमनीयकिशोरमूर्तिम् पूर्तिं मनोरथभुवां भज जानकीशम्. All right. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think last time we had completed till Doha Chaupai set number 26. नाम राम को कल्पतरु कलि कल्याण निवासु जो सुमिरत भयो भांगते तुलसी तुलसी दासु. And I think when I was translating it, I had translated bhang as opium, which is wrong. Bhang is basically weed or marijuana. So this is a very interesting comparison that Goswami ji has done, because both are intoxicants. Weed or marijuana is a physical and mental intoxicant, and Tulsi, the very name Tulsi, creates this whole lore of Krishna, of Ram, and it is an intoxicant of another sort, which is a spiritual intoxicant. So he says that I, Tulsidas, who was like a mere marijuana or weed plant, because of the grace of Sri Ram, turned into a Tulsi plant. So that is what he mentions over here. Okay, so with that, we'll now move to the next Doha Chaupai block set. Okay. जहु जुगति निकालति हूँ लोका भय नाम जपि जीव बिसोका वेद पुराण संत मत एहू सकल सुकृत फल राम सनेहू ध्यानु प्रथम जुग मख विधि दूजे द्वापर परितोखत प्रभु पूजे कलि केवल मल मूल मलीना पाप पयो निधि जनमन मीना नाम काम तरु काल कराला सुमिरत समन सकल जग जाला राम नाम कलि अभिमत दाता हित पर लोक लोक पितु माता नहीं कलि करमन भगति विवेकु राम नाम अवलंबन एकू काल नेमि कलि कपट निधानु नाम सुमति समरथ हनुमानु राम नाम नर केसरी कनक कसिपु कलिकाल चापक जन प्रहलाद जिमि पालिहि दली सुरसाल. Okay. So चहु जुग तीनि काल तिहु लोका भय नाम जपि जीव बिसोका. Remember that as a summary, we are now in the block that is describing the greatness of the Naam. We also saw why the Naam fares better both than the Sagun or the Nirgun form, because it is not just a he but also bhi. Bas he or bhi ka farak hai, which is what we saw over the last 2 sessions around the Nama Vandana. Now over here he's saying in the 4 yugas, in the 3 kalas and in the 3 worlds. So what are the 4 yugas? Let me just share my other screen so that we have a good understanding of this. Can you see my screen now? Okay. In the meantime, I think Saroj Patwardhan ma'am has joined. Hello, ma'am.
Namaste, Santosh.
Namaste. So for all of you all, just a short introduction. It is an immense honor and pleasure to have Saroj Patwardhan ma'am today as a guest. She has been my Hindi teacher in school, and the seed of all that we are doing here was sown by her in school. So ma'am, so grateful and so thankful that you're here today.
Welcome and good morning. Namaste. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Most kind of you, Santosh, to have introduced me the way you did. And I'm eagerly looking forward to listening to you. So, but I'll switch off my this. I'm the very clumsy where I'm not at all techno savvy. So I would switch off the video and the sound too, because in the morning too much of noise goes on in the
Sure,
household.
sure. No problem, ma'am. It's just such
Okay.
an honor to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you so
I'm with you. I'm listening to you.
much. Okay.
Bye. See you
Bye.
all.
Okay, so now we have the four yugas, the three kalas, and the three worlds. Bhaya nama japi jiva bisoka. Now, over the last few sessions, there were a few questions on the whole function of time and how it starts warping around. So, bhay, bhor bhai, dusk or dawn has broken. So, bhay is something that has already happened. Now he's saying that in the four yugas, in the three kalas, which is the tenses of time, past, present, and the future, and in the three worlds, the world of the devatas, the world of mere mortals like us, and the nether worlds of the demons. Bhaya nama japi jiva bisoka. All the jivas in these three worlds have become bisok, have become without sorrow. But bhay, they have already become. Now the question is, how is he using the verb form bhay for something that is to happen in the future? So this place, this Doha Chaupai block, is where he starts attacking our conceptualization of time by a simple mechanism of using has been or of using bhay, a form, dawn has broken, which refers to an immediate past, to also refer to tini kal, the future as well. So let's just see and understand what the four yugas are, what the three kals are, and what the three lokas are. So first of all, let's just try and understand what the four yugas are. So when we talk of the yuga, we have, of course, the first, which is the Satya Yuga, which is considered to have four parts. I'll explain what I mean by parts. Then we have the Treta. Then we have the Dvapar, or the Dvapar actually. And then we have the Kali, which is our current yuga. This is 3, this is 2, and this is 1. So if the Satya Yuga is considered to be 4 units, the Treta, the 3 is 3/4 of Satya Yuga. The Dvapar is 1/2 of Satya Yuga, and Kali is but 1/4 of Satya Yuga. Now this means two things. One is we need not get so distressed about our presence in Kali Yuga, because it's only 1/4 of the grand Satya cycle. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is to warp time. So we think that Satya, Treta, Dvapar, and Kali are serial, which they are in a certain way. On the bhautik plane, they are. On the Daivik plane, what do they mean? We'll come to that later. But on the Adhyatmic plane, all these 4 yugas exist at the same time in our minds. Sometimes we are contemplative and in the Satya Yuga. Sometimes we are very ritualistic and doing a lot of dharma. We are in the Treta. We are doing Upasana, Puja. We are in the Dvapar. And when we are caught in our mohas, in our Shadripus, then we are in the Kali. So all 4 yugas in an Adhyatmic plane exist at the same time. So one, there is seriality in that one follows the other. Second, there is a certain circularity, which is to say that once Kali ends, you are back to Satya. So there is a circularity. Within that circularity, there is a linearity, and there is also a certain, simultaneous existence of all these four yugas. Pardon my handwriting. So these four yugas are depicting a seriality, a circularity, and a certain simultaneous existence of the concept of time. Which is why you have to separate the Kal from the Yuga. Because the obvious question is, if he's talking of a grand scale of all the four yugas of Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali, why does he have to refer to Tini Kal again? The reason for that is Kal presents past, present, and future in all the four yugas. So there have been many eons or yugas that have happened before. They are currently happening in the Kali, and they will happen later. There is no end to this. There is no beginning to this. Within the cyclicity of the yugas, there will be past, present, and future. And within this temporality, there's a certain spatiality of space of the upper worlds, the mortal world, and the nether world. So across the eons of time in our mind, which have a certain simultaneous existence, across the imagination of physical time of past, present, and future, and across the entire space, the name has been, so he uses a past tense there, and the name has been the remover of all sorrow. So there is a certain certainty that time will move on both linearly and in a cyclic manner. But as it moves on, the only savior will be the name. So bhaye nama japi jiva bisoka, which is why he uses the word bhaye over here. The name has been the one that has made people bereft of sorrow, both in the past, present, and the future, as also across the yugas. So with this Chaupai, he starts attacking our linear understanding of time. There's going to be much more fun in this as we move across the yuga stories, but this is the first place where we encounter why is he referring in the past to something that is going to happen in the future. He's basically dissolving our very rigid understanding of time and what it means to understand time. Okay, Veda Purana Santamata Ehu. The opinion of the Vedas and the Puranas, as also the saints, is such, Sakala Sukruta Phala Ramasanehu. The end result or the end game of all the collection of good deeds that you have is the love of Ram. Now, this is very interesting because, in the bhakti that we do, sorry, I need to stop sharing my screen and share the other one again. Okay, so Chahujuga Tini Kala Tihuloka Bhay Nama Japi Jiva Bisoka is something that I tried to unfold. Veda Purana Santamata Ehu Sakala Sukruta Phala Ramasanehu. The end result of all the good deeds that you do is the love of Ram. Now, this is a very crucial concept or an idea to understand. When we offer something to divinity, there is a certain transactionality, which is fine. That is, Sakam Bhakti. Give me wealth, give me health, give me a good progeny, give me a good partner, anything that you may wish for. So the sadhana that you do and the sadhya that you have, the ends and the means are differentiated. The ends and the means are not the same. But over here, in true blissful divinity, the bhakti of divinity, the ends and the means overlap. There is a sadhana, sadhya ekata. How? Your means is to love Ram, so that you may get what? More love of Ram. So there is complete unity of your sadhana, which is to love Ram. What do you want out of it? More love of Ram. Sakala Sukruta Phala Ramasanehu. So this is non-transactional bhakti. It is bhakti for bhakti's sake. And the Vedas and the Puranas, as also the great saints, have said this in a unified voice. Sakala Sukruta Phala Ramasanehu. There is no other fruit. If you're wishing for the Kalpataru, the wish-fulfilling tree to give you health, wealth, etc., you are missing out on things. What you need to wish for is the love of Ram. And the way to wish for that is by loving Ram. So there is a complete unison of sadhana and sadhya. Now he talks of the various yogas and what were the main aims of worshipping divinity in those 4 yogas. We had done this, we had touched upon this point very briefly 3 sessions back. Dhyana Prathama Yoga Makhabidhi Duje. So in the first yoga, the main recourse was dhyan or contemplation on divinity, trying to get a view of what divinity is within us, without us. What does it mean to exist? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be superhuman? What does it mean to be spiritual? All these contemplations were done in the Pratham or in the Satya Yoga, which is why we don't have authorship to the Vedas. We call them as Shrutis and Apaurushaya, because these are the results of deep meditations and reflections of the entire range of the rishis in which they saw things. It is a darshan. It is not their own voice muddled by their krodh, kam, moha, lobha, mada, matsar, dvesh. It is a voice coming from the clean and still waters of the mind. That is a darshan of reality as it exists. Hence the Vedas are apaurushaya, but all that was done in the Pratham Yoga, in the Satya Yoga. Makha Bidhi Duje. Makha is yajna. So all the karma kind, you do offerings, you have the entire setup of the yajna. It involves a lot of money, it involves a lot of organization, it involves a lot of people. That was the charm of the second or the Treta Yoga. Dvapara Paritoshata Prabhu Puje. Now this is slightly tricky because when we say second, we think of Dvi or Dvapar. But the second is the Treta. So the 4 units of time are Satya, the 3 units of time are Treta, the 2 units of time are Dvapar, and 1 unit of time is Kali, which is the current yoga. So Kali is small, and then the further yogas are bigger still. So the unit, the 3/4 and the 1/2 is there in the name of Treta 3 and Dvapar Dvi 2. But the Satya and the Kali don't have the numbering embedded in their names. So Makhabiji Duje, in the second yoga, which is the Treta, the 3/4 yoga, 3/4 in size and in terms of the Satya Yoga, what was the main tool available to people? It was the Yajna. Dvapara Paritokhata Prabhu Puje. In the Dvapar Yoga, in the yoga which is 1/2 of the Satya Yoga, they had upasana. They went to temples, they built temples, they worshipped the deity with all the puja, etc. Kali kevala mala mula malina. And in our current yoga, very few have access to these 3. So the obvious question is, if these 4 yogas were to be only serial, that there is Satya, Treta, Dvapar and Kali with a hard cut, we still see people in deep contemplation. We still have great seers. We have many yagyas that are going on in the country. We have beautiful temples with great upasanas. But these are not the popular form of worship for one and all, in the sense that we don't have that much time to do that. Which is why all these 4 yogas exist simultaneously like layers on a painting. But the most prominent layer on the outside is the Kali Yoga. And how is the Kali Yoga? Kali kevala mala mula malina. It is very dirty and it is the root of all the malas. We are caught in our material wants, by our aspirations, by our angers, lusts, desires. All this surrounding turmoil have muddled the waters of contemplation, of yajna and of upasana. Papa payonidhi janamana meena. Our minds are like fish that have to survive in the sea of papa. Payonidhi is the sea of what? Pap. Pap resulting out of all the vrittis of the mind. The mind is always flying here and there. We are completely tormented by it. We are caught up in everything that is transient. We have no time to reflect on anything that is transcendental. And our minds are like the fish swimming in this sea of papa, which means also that if this fish were to get out of it, it's going to die. We are humans, we are caught by these entrapments, by these attachments. There is no running away, and there's no point in living in some self-delusion that we can overcome them in a lifetime. Very few people can. It's best to assume that we cannot. So Kali Kevala Mala Moola Malina, and Kali is the root of all this. It's very dirty, it's muddled waters. And we, our minds, are like the fish swimming in this sea of Papa, which is to say that if we get out of it, we are dead. Nam. So what is the savior here then in the fourth Kali Yuga? It is the name, Nam. Nama Kamataru Kala Karala. Death is Karal. It is like these open mouths that is waiting to trap us, eat us, and finish us off. Am I still there, or have I? Yeah, I'm there. Okay. Kali Kevala Mala Moola Nama Kamataru Kala Karala. So this extensive time acts like death wanting to chew us and eat us in the mouth of time. But the savior is the Kamataru, or the wish-fulfilling tree. Just a quick feedback. I think my internet has got a bit jittery. Am I audible to all of you all, or have I lost you all?
No, you're
Yeah.
very much audible.
You are audible. You're audible.
Okay. So Nama Kamataru Kala Karala, Sumirata Samana Sakala Jagajala. And this entrapment of the world, the Jagajal, the Indrajal, it burns that the moment we think of Ram. So the name Ram is our only recourse in the Kalikal. It is the wish, desire fulfilling tree. Nama Kamataru Kala Karala, Sumirata Samana Sakala Jagajala. This burning of the world, this pida that we have, the burning of the heart, that the entrapment of the world that we are caught in, all that is burnt just by remembering. And what effort does it take? Nothing. What investment does it take? Nothing. Can you say Ram while you're driving? Yes. Can you contemplate on it while you're cooking? Yes. Can you contemplate on it while you're playing a sport or swimming? Yes. It is a direct and free access given to one and all in the Kali Yuga, where you don't have recourse to contemplation, yagya, or upasana. Rama Nama Kali Abhimata Data. Now, this Nam is also going to fulfill all your desires and wants. It's not as if it is going to kind of, take you out from your, how do I say it? It is not going to take you out from your immediate material necessities and make you into a sadhu sannyasi. It is also going to fulfill all your desires that you want. Now, what does this mean? It is basically saying that if you live a life within the framing of dharma, then your artha and kama will be taken care of. And through the vairagya that sets in, by flowing through the artha kama river, you will set your eyes on moksha. So there's a very beautiful verse in the Mahabharata, in which at the end of the Mahabharata, the verse comes, Urdhva bahur viraumyescha nacha kaschit shrunoti me dharmad arthascha kamascha sakimartham na sevyate. It is only dharma that will lead you to the fulfillment of your desires, as also to the means, the artha, that allow you to do that. But no one seems to listen to me. Everyone is not following dharma. So the name fulfills your material desires, but it also gives you that light at the end of the tunnel towards moksha, because it allows you to function in the framing of dharma. That is how we need to understand Rama Nama Kali Abhimata Data. It is a wish-fulfilling tree. You ask and it will give. Hita Paraloka Loka Pitumata. It will take care of your existence in the other world, which is to say life beyond death. And is lok mein, jahan pe hum reh rahe hain, the Naam is like mother and father. It cares for you like a mother, and it protects you like a father. And father and mother, male and female, are gira aratha jala bichi sama kahiyata bhinna na bhinna. They are one. They are in the form of Ram Naam. Okay, so Rama Nama Kali Abhimata Data Hita Paraloka Loka Pitumata. It will protect you in this as also the other world. Nahi Kali Karamana Bhagati Bibeku Rama Nama Avalambana Eku. In the Kali Kal, we don't have recourse to karma, we don't have recourse to bhakti, and we don't have recourse to vivek. Now, these three map to the activities of the three yugas. We have seen that in the Satya Yuga, it is contemplation that is mapping on Vivek. In the Treta Yuga, it is the Yajna, which is mapping to the Karma Kand. And in the Dwapar, it is Upasana, which is mapping to Bhakti. So in the Kali Yuga, we don't have full access to either the Karma Kand or to complete devotion or to a sense of discretion. Our savior or the saving grace is Naam. Nahi kali karamana bhagati viveku, Rama nama avalambana eku. The only dependence that we have to move across the sea of material existence is Ram Naam. So it is said that the river, the Ganga river that flows, is like the river of Artha and Kama. If it is not banked by dharma on this side, the river will overflow and destroy your life as the river in the monsoons that floods the fields and kills people. But if you bank it on one side with dharma, and if you let Artha and Kama flow, the other side of moksha is waiting for you. You just have to cross the river on the boat of Ram Naam. So Rama Nama Avalambana Eku, let us take recourse to the Ram Naam and move across the river on the other side, which is moksha. Kala Nemi Kali Kapata Nidhanu Nama Sumati Samaratha Hanumano. Now, this is a reference to the story of Kala Nemi. I've got a few pictures which I'll show on the screen and explain this story. So, the Kali is like a storehouse, a nidhan of kapat, of hypocrisy, just like Kala Nemi. And our only savior in this is Sri Hanumanji, who saw through the hypocrisy of Kala Nemi and killed him, vanquished him. So the Kali Yuga is full of hypocrisy. You know, in Marathi, there is a saying that he gaya ta ghaluna tulishichi lakade, ti kaya bhavala sangatila makade. You've got all kinds of hypocrites looping people, taking care, misusing the fact that people are in need, giving them some ointment, telling them some nonsense, and taking money out of them under the name of dharma. And the whole Kali Yuga is full of such hypocrites, and they are like Kala Nemi, and it is the Samartha Hanuman who works as Ram Naam that gives us the confidence not to fall into such trappings and move on in the Kali Yuga with the strength of the name Nama Sumati Samaratha Hanumano. Now, what is the story of Kala Nemi and Hanuman? We'll now delve into the story through some images that I've brought for the session today. Okay, this is not what I wanted to share. I wanted to share the presentation. Yeah. So we've seen the Hiranyagarbha, etc. in the last few sessions. Now we'll come to the story of Kala Nemi. Okay, so what is the story of Kala Nemi and Hanuman, and what's the reference being given over here? Now, interestingly, this story does not find great elaboration in the Valmiki Ramayana. The story comes to us primarily in the Adhyatma Ramayana, which is then brought into the Avadhi by Goswamiji in the Lanka Kand. So the story of Kala Nemi, I think, if I remember right, around Dohā number 56 in the Lanka Kand. So there is a reference to that story over here in the Balkan. Now, let's take a cut into the story, because Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta, we never know where to begin and where to end. It's an infinite story. But let's just say that Sri Lakshman was injured and he had to be saved. That's where the story begins. And now you can see over here in the image, you have Hanumanji. Lakshman is injured. Hanumanji has taken Sri Lakshman in his hands, and Ram is in his Leela acting extensively worried as to how can we save Sri Lakshman. Now they know that there is a bed in the on the side of Ravana, Sushen, and they decide to call him. Hanuman, being Hanuman, he doesn't listen to anything. He says, if he's not coming, I'm going to pick up his home and bring him here. So he just lifts off his home. You can see that over here. The Vaidya Sushen's home is just lift off, and he's brought in over here. And then Sushen comes, he inspects Lakshman and says, it's beyond me. So he's, this is what we call professionalism today. He is on the side of Ravana, but he's a Vaidya, he's a doctor. and on the field, his job is to save life. So he's the Red Cross of that time, if you want to. And he comes and in his professional duty says, I will save him. I don't really care whether he's on Ravana's side or the other side. My job as a Vaid, my job as a doctor is to save lives. And he then tries to save the life of Lakshman and says, Hanuman, this is not in my hands. I need a special jadi booty, the Sanjeevani, which is there up north. You have to go there and get it for me. So Hanumanji then starts this journey towards the north. Now Ravan, on the other hand, comes to know that all this is happening, and I am going to Ravan, on the other hand, comes to know that all this is happening, and I am going to now set up a fake sadhu who is a Rakshasa called Kalanemi. So you can see that Hanumanji meets Kalanemi over here and asks for some water. Kalanemi gives him a pot of water, and then Hanumanji is more thirsty. So he says, go and drink in another lake over there. In the lake, Hanumanji meets a crocodile, and the crocodile tries to attack him. So Hanumanji kind of controls the crocodile, and that turns out to be a disgraced Apsara. She then tells Hanumanji the real form of Kalanemi, saying, beware, he's coming as a sadhu, but he's actually a Rakshasa in disguise. So Hanumanji then goes back to him, and as you can see, he kills him over here, he vanquishes him, and this fellow suddenly, his real roop comes out as a demon. This is how Kali Yuga is. The world is filled with hypocrites. The biggest of hypocrites is us, if we look within us. So we don't have to go, looking around here and there for hypocrites. The biggest hypocrites, if we really start reflecting about ourselves, is us. And this is what Kali Yuga, or the trapping or the Maya of Kali Yuga is. And by the strength of Sri Hanuman, this Kalanemi is then vanquished and killed. Hanuman then is not able to locate the Sanjeevani booty, the herb. So he picks up the full mountain, we all know this story, and gets it down. Now, on his way, I'll just complete that story. Bharata, he is flying across Ayodhya. Obviously, he's gone to the Himalayas in the north, so he has to cross Ayodhya. Bharata sees him and thinks of him as a demon and shoots an arrow. So this blue-skinned person that you see over here is not Shri Ram, but Bharata staying close by in Nandigram. And then he shoots an arrow because he thinks that Ayodhya ji is under attack. And then Hanuman takes that arrow and comes down. And then when he comes down, he utters the name Ram Ram, which is when Bharata realizes that this is not a demon. And then there is this great bhet, this grand meeting of Bharatji and Hanumanji. You see them meeting over here, hugging each other. And remember that we have said that Ram Katha is told by Valmiki ji. And the greatest, or the prima donna, the first among equals of people who listen to the story is Hanumanji. But he's also the carrier of the story within the story. So Bharata gets to know about what's happening down there in Lanka through Hanuman. Similarly, what's happening to Sita is conveyed to Sri Ram by Hanuman. So within the story, the narrator of the intra-story to the various characters in the story is Hanuman. So Hanuman is not only a great listener of the story, he plays an important role in conveying the story within the story. And this section clearly shows that he meets Bharatji and tells him all that is happening and the reason as to why he's carrying the mountain. Then, after this is done, he goes with the mountain on the other side. As you can see, he's landed over here with the mountain. And then he's brought the bed with his house. So he calls him again. Then there is the medicament that has been brought, this Sanjeevani booty. You can see that is being administered to Lakshman, and Lakshman ji then comes up alive again. So that is the story of Kalnemi and Shri Hanuman. As I said, it has a very fleeting or no reference in the Valmiki Ramayana, but the story is primarily in the Adhyatma Ramayana and then is brought into the Avadhi by Goswamiji. The paintings that we saw, by the way, are from the Kanchan Chitra Ramayana of Kashi. So we have seen many images of the Kanchan Chitra Ramayana earlier. This image is also from there. So in this Kali Yuga, we are surrounded by hypocrites. And if we look within, we ourselves have a lot of hypocrisy. And in the Bhagavad, the word used is projhita kaitav. How should our bhakti be? Bhakti does not care about the wealth you bring in, the power you bring in, the kind of tamjham you bring in. It cares about a clean mind and the mentality with which you approach divinity within you. And that Kali Yuga does not allow through the hypocrisy in the form of Kalnemi. And the only recourse to kill that hypocrisy is through the devotion that Sri Hanumanji has practiced. And it is through that devotion in the form of Sri Hanuman that this Kalanemi Rakshas can be killed. That is the unfolding of Kalanemi Kali Kapata Nidhano Nama Sumati Samaratha Hanuman. So the name is the strength through which this hypocrisy can be killed. And it's not going to be killed in a day. It is not going to be permanently killed. It will be suppressed. It will come again. So the Naam has to go on and on and on. So if we read the Atharva Shirsha, for example, it says that if you recite it during daytime, all your night papas will be vanquished. If you recite it at night time, all your day papas will be vanquished. Now, that's not a passport to, be hypocritic during day and recite the verses at night. And be hypocritic during night and recite the verse in the morning. What it is trying to say to these phalashrutis is that whatever you do, don't be overconfident that you will overcome these hypocrisies, and don't start imagining yourself to be completely transformed. That's never going to happen in one go. Shanai Shanai. It will happen step by step. And hence you have to, this fallback is not something that you need to be worried about. What you need to be worried about is A, do you have a right understanding of it? Do you have a right self-image that you're full of these Shadripus, whoever you are, whoever we are? And the biggest hypocrite is sitting within us when we look within. And the only way to overcome that is through the Naam. Now, at 27, we come to the end of the whole Naam Mahima. So a little reflection or a Sihavalokan of what that Naam means. We had said that divinity is Nirgun and Sagun, both and beyond and none. So there is a very beautiful metaphor given by one of the old Kathakars. While explaining this, he used to say, let's say you have a big house and you invite, guests, but there will be some guests who will come unannounced, which is why they are called atithi. Jo tithi banaye bina aate hain, wo atithi hai. The word for guests in our language is atithi. You don't need to take an appointment for someone, visiting your home. They can just drop by. So now if there are two atithis that come your way, and you know that they don't get along well with each other or they don't know each other, would you put them in the same room and say, let them do what they want, I'll just observe them from a corner? No. You have to give them due respect, appoint them to their right quarters in your house, and you have to be in their service. Now this metaphor is brought into the whole Nirgun, Sagun and Naam. So how do you access the Sagun Rupa? The guest of Sagun Rupa is accessed through the room of the eyes. वो नेत्र गोचर है. आपको सगुण रूप देखना है तो सगुण रूप आप नेत्रों से देख सकते हैं. And in this Navadvarapuri, this city of 9 doors, you store the Sagun Rupa, or you उसका आप आतिथ्य करते हैं नेत्र के कमरे में, नेत्र के कोठी में. So in the eyes you have the Sagun. So the guest of the Saguna is brought into the eyes and asked to reside there. The Nirguna is the form that you don't see, so you give place to it in the heart. So one, you give place in the eyes, the Sagun form, the deity, the Murti, the avatar. The other, the Nirgun form, you give place in your heart. Is your job done? You say, आप अपने अपने कमरे में रह जाइए, हम यहाँ से देख लेंगे क्या चल रहा है. No, you have to be at their service. So your organs of perception, the eye, and the sukshma or subtle organ of perception, the mind, where the Nirguna form is residing, you have to put your Vani to its service. And you have to serve both the Sagun and the Nirgun form through Ram Nam, which resides in your mouth or the Vaikhari. So it's a very beautiful metaphor of Nirgun bhi hai, Sagun bhi hai, और उन दोनों की सेवा आप राम नाम से कर सकते हैं. And remember, you're not observing in a corner. You have to be at the service, which is why you have to put your organ of action to work, which is the mouth. The mouth, interestingly, is the only place in our body which has both organ of perception, the rasana, the jivha, which gives us taste, as also the vaikhari, which is the organ of action of speech. So it is through this organ of action of speech that we render ourselves in the room of the eyes for the Sagun form, and in the room of the heart to the Nirgun form. And that word Ram, Ram, Ram makes both the Sagun and Nirgun accessible. Okay. Rama Nama Nara Kesari Kanaka Kasipu Kalikal Japaka Jana Prahalada Jimi Palihi Dali Surasal. I need not explore the background story too much, because last time we had seen the entire series of Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu, and how Narasimha, the lion form, the man lion form, killed Hiranyakashipu. So that's the context of this Doha here. Now it's perfect symmetry. So Nara Kesari is Narasimha. Kesari is a lion. Nara Kesari is man lion or Nrsimha. So again, just as for Shatrughna, we saw the word Ripusudan. For Nrsimha, Nrsimha is slightly difficult to say. So Goswamiji in his genius uses Nara Kesari. So the Ram Nam is like this Nrsimha avatar, he says in this Doha finally. Kanaka Kasipu. Kanaka is gold. Hiranya. Kashipu is Kasipu. Kalikal. And Kali Yuga is in the form of Hiranyakashipu. Japaka Jana Prahalada Jimi. We are like Prahlad. We are great devotees but born demonic. Like Prahlada was born in the Hiranyakashipu in the form of Kali Yuga. All of us have that demonic element in us because we are children of Kali Yuga. Japaka Jana Prahlada Jimi. Palihi Dali Surasal. And it is here that the Ram Nam protects by killing the enemy of the gods. Surasal is enemy of the gods. Dali is destroying, vanquishing, killing. And he protects us by destroying the enemy of the gods. Now here again, I need to shift back and share my other screen. Okay, let me just do that now. Okay. So now there is a slight catch over here in this particular Doha. Let's see if we can unfold that. There is a very beautiful symmetry drawn over here. So he's saying Nrsimha or Narakesari is basically Ram Nama. Rama Nama Narakesari. Okay, so far so good. Kanaka Kasipu Kalikal. There is Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyakashipu more correctly. Is the Kalikal. Okay, so this symmetry is so far so good. Japaka Jana Prahlada Jimi. Now, Prahlad is the bhaktas, like us, who are caught in the trappings but have that motivation towards a higher goal. Palihi Dali Surasal. Now, there is Sura and Sal is the enemy. Now, in this perfect, see, you have to remember that you have India's or the world's one of the greatest poetic geniuses doing this work. So when he's doing this symmetry, it has to be perfect. So we have a mapping of Nrsimha with Ram Nam. We have Hiranyakashipu mapping to Kalikal. We have Prahlad mapping to the Bhaktas. Now, what are the Suras mapping to over here? The gods. The enemy of the gods is vanquished. But what are the gods? This verse does not give that. And you feel like there's a little stone that has come under your teeth. The metaphor, the simile is not complete. We have seen right in session 1 that the Dohas are like the lotuses, the Dohas and the Sorthas. And the Chaupais are purains or the leaves of the lotus. And we know if you go to a lake, that a lotus blossoms somewhere, but its stem could be somewhere else. So where is the resolution of this surah sal? In this symmetry, this surah is not mapping to something. It's not complete. So let's start searching around and land up at Doha Chaupai block number 31, where he's talking of the greatness of the Katha. Okay, so we will now again exit this and go back and see what is happening in Doha Chaupai block 31. Just to give you all an idea of the intricacy with which Goswamiji has created this text. Sadaguna Suragana Amba Aditisi. Now we are reading a section from Chaupai before Doha 31, in which he's saying that the Ram Katha is like Amba Aditisi, is like Mother Amba to the gods. The mother of the gods was Aditi, and the Sadgunas are like the Suraganas. So the Ram Katha, this is a description of the Ram Katha. The Ram Katha is like the Sadgunas, and the Sadgunas themselves are like the Suraganas Amba Aditisi, who are the children of Aditi. So he's basically saying that Surgan jo hai, wo aur kuch nahi hai, wo Sadgun hai. And this is how that half-empty metaphor or simile is resolved, because the Suraganas over there in the other text that we were showing are nothing but the Sadgunas. Surgan hi Sadgun hai. This is being resolved in Doha number 31. And that resolution we have to apply over here and then say, now that metaphor is complete in all respects, that it is basically Surah Sal is Sadguno ke Dushman, Sadguno ke Shatru, by killing the Shatru of the Sadgunas. Now you might ask, all this is very fine, but could Sursal not just be taken to be Hiranyakashipu and it could be closed? No, it cannot, because then Hiranyakashipu will come twice. Hiranyakashipu is coming as Kalikal. He cannot come here again as Surasal. So the enemy of the gods is Hiranyakashipu, but the gods themselves are the Sadgunas. So the Sadgunas in us are protected by killing the effect of Kalikal, which is Hiranyakashipu, and that's how this Doha Chaupai block unfolds. Okay, so we are at the end of the Doha Chaupai block 27. Any questions, remarks, comments?
Just a quick question. What is the difference between the Valmiki Ramayana and the Adhyatma Ramayana?
So the Valmiki Ramayana was written earlier than the Adhyatma Ramayana. The Adhyatma Ramayana is also attributed to Valmiki, but it is a much later text. And the Adhyatma Ramayana is a shorter text, much shorter than the Valmiki Ramayana. And it bases its whole philosophy on Advaita and constructs the story as a carrier of Advaita. So it is said that the Vedas, what is taught in the Vedas, is the same as what is said in the Ramayana. Now, one aspect of that we saw that Omkar is nothing but Ramnam. So that was one mapping. Similarly, everything that the Vedas, particularly the Upanishads, try to tell as a teacher, the Ramayana tells you as a friend, as a preceptor. So the Valmiki Ramayana does that, but the Adhyatma Ramayana does that more so by putting the whole Ramayana story on an Advaitic foundation. So various concepts of Advaita are picked up and they are made animate by saying Sita is Maya and Shakti, Ram is Brahman, etc. And if you look at the philosophical construction of the Rāmacaritamānasa, it very heavily bases itself on the Adhyatma Ramayana to extract out and reuse and bring forth to the larger audience these concepts. So, Nana Purana Nigamagama Sammatam Yat Ramayane Nigaditam Pachiranyatopi. In the beginning, what Goswamiji says, that I have taken stories from various Puranas, from Ramayanas. He does not mention only Valmiki Ramayana. He says the Ramayana, which is also the Adhyatma Ramayana.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else? If not, then we move on to the next Doha Chaupai block. So over here, from the last 9 Doha Chaupai blocks were the Gungan of the Ram Naam. We have explored and understood how the Ram Naam operates. Now there's a little interregnum in which he again goes into this self-reflection of what it means and how am I, such a humble poet, ever going to be able to write such a great text. We have seen this self-reflection, self-doubt earlier. There's a little figment of that, and then after that he will blast into his understanding of the Katha, which is a huge series of metaphors, similes, which we will unfold in the upcoming sessions. Okay, so let's move on to the next Doha Chaupai block now. भाय कुभाय अनख आलस हूँ, नाम जपत मंगल दिसि दस हूँ, सुमिरि सो नाम राम गुण गाथा, करऊँ नाई रघुनाथ ही माथा, मोरी सुधारी ही सो सब भांति, जास कृपा नहीं कृपा अघाती, राम सुस्वामी कुसेव कुमोसो, निज दिसि देखि दया निधि पोसो, लोकहु वेद सुसाहिब रीति, विनय सुनत पहिचानत प्रीति, घनी गरीब ग्राम नर नागर, पंडित मूढ़ मलिन उजागर, सुकबि कुकबि निज मति अनुहारी, नृपहि सराहत सब नर नारी, साधु सुजान सुशील नृपाला, ईस अंस भव परम कृपाला, सुनि सन मानहि सब ही सुबानी, भनिति भगति नति गति पहिचानी, यह प्राकृत महिपाल सुभाऊ, जान शिरोमणि कोसल राऊ, रीझत राम सनेहनि सोते, जो जग मंद मलिन मति मोते, सठ सेवक की प्रीति रुचि, रखी हहीं राम कृपालु, उपल किए जल जान जहीं, सचिव सुमति कपि भालु, हऊँ कहावत सब कहत, राम सहत उपहास, साहिब सीता नाथ सो, सेवक तुलसीदास. Okay. So bhaya ko bhaya anakh alasahu, naam japata mangala disidasahu. Now, if you want to do contemplation, then you have to be in a certain mental state, you have to be cleansed, you have to prepare yourself, you have to quieten your mind. If you are doing yagya, तो पूछो ही मत कितना कर्मकांड आपको करना पड़ता है. Same for upasana. But with naam, anyone can do it. Bhaya ko bhaya. You can do it with great love. You can do it with a lot of hatred. If you're not yet ready for it, no one is ready for it 100%. Everyone is not ready for it. So kubhaya is all of us. Bhaya is also all of us. Anakha, with anger. So with good qualities, with a certain kind of enmity towards divinity, ye kya hai, ye mujhe nahi karna hai. Even with that, with a certain anger or with a certain tiredness, whichever way you take the name Mangala Disidasahu, it will create auspiciousness for you. So with a lot of love, the gopis, Arjun, Hanuman, infinite examples of people who approach divinity with love. Ubhai, Bure Bhav se, Kans, Jaristhari Kashti Pashani, everywhere in waters, on land, in stones and in woods, he saw nothing but Krishna and approached him with a lot of hatred. Ultimately, he was vanquished, but he also achieved Gati. So if you approach him with hatred, divinity is not going to approach you with hatred. Divinity, see, which is why it is divine. So there's a nice Hindi phrase that says Ram ban gaye, which means that Ram went to the forest. But because he went to the forest, he is Ram. Otherwise, he could have sat there and fought with his father, with his brother, with his stepmother. But he just listened to the adesh or the command of his father and did what had to be done. Ram ban gaye, isliye Ram ban gaye. So divinity is compassionate without reason, you might approach it with anger, it will still be compassionate towards you. Anakha, with a lot of with a lot of anger, you could be angry at divinity, saying, why are my wishes not being fulfilled? You could be an artharthi, you could be an arti. I have done everything. You have saved, the most wretched of the prostitutes, but you are not coming to save me, oh Lord. You can be in that state of artata. Compassion will still work. You could be tired. You could be a kumbhakarna, sleeping, eating day in and day out, and still transform yourself into a bhakta. So you can approach divinity with whatever state of mind. Just start. There's no late time. It's always a good time to start. It's not like, अरे मैं अभी वो mood में नहीं हूँ, I'm not pure enough, I'm not pious enough, I'm not clean enough, I'm not free enough. For Ram Nam, no excuse works, because you just have to do it, and its magic starts working on you over a period of time, not immediately. Nama japata mangala disi dasahu. Sumiri so nama Rama gunagatha karau nai raghunathai matha. And now I have explained to y'all, says Goswamiji, the power of the name, and I, Goswamiji, remembers that power, Karau Nai Raghunathai Matha. And I now bow down to Sri Raghunathji, remembering the power of the name, which is to say, bestow me with that power so that I can tell your katha. Moli sudhari hi so sab bhati, jasu krupa nahi krupa aghati. So, even compassion is enabled by this great owner of compassion, and he is an infinite giver of compassion. Like we say for Shiva, Avghardani. You ask and he gives, you don't ask and still he gives. Rama Suswami ku sevaku moso. He is a great Swami, but I, Goswami ji says, is a bad servant of his. Nija disi dekhi dayanidhi poso. And looking at me, he still takes care of me because he's a sea of compassion. Lokahu beda susahibariti. The folklore or the non-Vedic traditions, not the non-Vedic, but traditions outside the Vedas, as also the Vedic traditions, as also the great learned men, Binaya Sunata Pahichanata Priti, they have all said that the moment you supplicate towards him, Projita Kaita, with no hypocrisy, no inside one thing, outside one thing, no double speak. If you have that cleanliness of mind, it doesn't matter in what station of life you are. It doesn't matter in what state of mind you are. He will immediately recognize the love that you have for him. And what does he ask? I mean, isn't it ironical that, we put these tons of golds, and who created this gold in the first place? Is it our gold? It is all an act of the divine. So patram pushpam phalam toyam, you can offer him anything, a leaf, a flower, water, anything. But who has created that? It is him. So you're offering his creation by taking part ownership and saying that this is a little something that I can offer to you. What he sees or what divinity sees is not what you're offering, but the intention, the cleanliness of mind, the projit kaita, the lack of hypocrisy, and that makes divinity dissolve and makes it amenable to your call or calling. Binaya sunata pahichanata priti. Gani gariba grama naranagara pandita mudha malina ujagara sukabi kukabi nija mati anuhari nrupahi sarahata sabanaranari. He makes 5 groups over here. Gani and Garib. Gani is someone who is rich, who has enough money, so much so that he can count it, but still the money is countless. So, jo Gani hai, jo rich hai, jo Garib hai. Gram, rural folks. There's a English word that I don't really like much, country bumpkin. Now, what does it mean? Are village folks not smart? That's not true. But there is still this distinction of someone being from the village, Gramin, and someone being from the city, learned, polished, polite, civilized. Whereas the Gram Bhasha is more direct, dotuk. That's the differentiation being brought over here. So there's the grouping of the poor and the rich, the rural and the urban divide, as we say, Gram Naranagara, Pandita Mudha, the learned, the scholar, and the dumb. Malina Ujagara, someone who is slightly down, and someone who is bright and confident. Sukabi and Kukabi, and here he reflects upon himself, and this self-doubt starts setting in. Will I be able to tell this katha? Will I not be able to tell it? So there are good poets and there are bad poets. Nijamati Anuhari. Nrupahi Saradhata Sabanaranari. But this compassionate king, does not see these dualities. He does not differentiate between the rich and poor, between the rural and the urban, between the learned and the dumb, between someone who's down and someone who's confident, between a bad and a good poet. Nrupahi sarahata sabanaranari. Every man and woman has open access to him, and the king showers praises on each and every one of them. Sadhu sujana susila nrupala isa ansa bhava parama krupala. Why does he do that? Why does he have to do that? Because he is sakshat ans, he is a form of Ishvara, and he's excessively compassionate. He is sadhu, he's saintly, he's sujan, he's well-knowing, he's of good character, the king, who is an impression of divinity himself. Sunisana manahi sabahi subani, haniti bhagati nati gati pahichani. So he says that this king will then listen to everyone, honor everyone with nice words. Bhaniti bhagati nati gati pahichani, by recognizing their speech, their talk, their devotion, their humility, and trying to make an assessment of where they are. He will recognize all of that, but he will still honor everyone. Now we have to resolve why are these 5 parameters used over here with a reference to these 5 blocks. We'll do that quickly now in a minute or two. Yaha prakruta mahipala subhav. Then he gives that surprise, because so far we are thinking that all this is the description of Ram. But he says कि यह तो प्राकृत राजा का स्वभाव है. So even if there is a mortal king who is good, he will have all these qualities of non-differentiation, of Rajdharma. He will not differentiate between rich, poor, between someone who's having a lot of power and someone who's powerless, between male and female. All these differences do not exist in Rajdharma, even for a mortal king. Janasi Romani Kosala Rao, he is the diadem of the Raghu clan. If a mortal king who is good has all these qualities, what to say of Shri Ram? Rijhata Rama Saneha Nisote Ko Jaga Manda Malinamati Mote. So he's now then comparing these two extremes, saying Ram is the highest form of divinity and he dissolves for love. And that's my only access to him, because there is no one more dumb than me. Goswamiji is saying this. Look at his humility. I mean, he's created something like the Rāmacaritamānasa, forget Vinay Patrika, Vairagya Sandipani, all other texts. And he is saying this. So he's basically saying that I am a mere mortal, not capable of anything, but I'm still confident that divinity will bless me because he dissolves towards love. And my love is not hypocritic. It is completely clean and pure. And that is going to be my saving grace. Before we go to the Doha, let us try and unfold why is he talking of Subani, Bhaniti, Bhagati, Nati, Gati, Pahichani. See, we have talked of 5 blocks earlier, Gani and Garib. The king does not differentiate between the rich and the poor. He is only having his attention on what is the nature and the intention of their speech. He is not driven by the wealth a rich man has or the lack of it that a poor person has. A poor person could come to him and be hypocritic. A rich person could come to him and be clean. He will bend towards the rich, not because he is rich, but because he is coming with a cleanliness of mind and lack of hypocrisy. So he listens to the intention of their speech. He does not differentiate between the Bhaniti. Remember, Goswamiji himself says Bhaniti Bhadesa. My language is that, is not that clean. It's not as Shuddha as Sanskrit. And I'm trying to tell the Ram Katha in it. So, oh divine grace, you save me. So he does not differentiate between the language of the Nagar, the well-informed, polished city folks, and the Grameen people. So that is the Bhaniti. He recognizes that, but looks only for their intentions. Bhagati. पंडित है लेकिन भक्ति नहीं है, कोई मूड है इतना पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है लेकिन बहुत भक्त है, he will side towards the bhakta. So he does not stand in awe of scholarship or is not contemptuous towards the lack of it. What he checks in the grouping of the pandits and the mudhas is who amongst them has more bhakti. Nati, he does not check what is your mental state of mind. Are you very confident or are you slightly down? Because if you are a bit confident, you can be slightly aggressive, and you can lack humility. So what he checks between someone who's slightly down and someone who is bright and confident is what is their humility, Nati. And between and Sukabi and Kukabi, he praises both. He praises both the poets, but he knows who is a good poet and who is a bad poet, not by their poetry, but by the intention that they have behind the poetry. So to explain this, another humorous example from one of the bhashyas. So this example is from the bhashya, which is called the Vijaya Tika by Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi. This extract I've got from that bhashya. And he's explaining to us what he means by this gati. So there is this poet who says he's basically very pure souled. He is not having any hypocrisy. He is projit kaitav. And he says, how is Brahman to me? And he is, after his bathing, he's continuously humming Ram, 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 Ram. And he's tying around his dhoti after doing his morning ablutions. And he thinks of a verse and says, wow, what a poetic genius. And what is that verse? Adi madhyantarahitam dashahinam puratanam advitiyam aham vande madhauta sadrusham harim. So he says Hari or Brahman or Ram is like my dhoti. Now, what kind of metaphor is this? Is this something of a metaphor of a great poet? It's each one's call, but I mean, you know what the obvious answer is. But what is the intention? He's pious, he's of a clean mind, and he's composing poetry. So the dhoti is not supposed to have any stitched ends. That is the very definition of a dhoti. So because it does not have any stitched ends, it is a cut piece of cloth which you can't sew or stitch. So it has no beginning, it has no end, which is why it can also not have any middle, just like Brahman or Ram. Dashahinam. Because it is not stitched, it does not have any state like the three states of Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, or the three gunas in the case of Hari. So Hari ke paksh mein त्रिगुणातीत है, हरि के पक्ष में तीनों दशा के परे है, और धोती के पक्ष में उसको कोई स्टिच नहीं है, इसीलिए दशाहीन है. Puratanam, it is very old. I'm not a rich person. I'm devoted to bhakti day in and day out. So I'm wearing a very tattered dhoti. It is very old, just like Shri Ram, who's also very old. In fact, he is not having any birth nor any end. He's infinite. Advitiyam. There's no parallel to it. So my dhoti, I've been wearing it. It is so old and tattered that there is no parallel to it. And hence I bow down to Hari, who is just like my dhoti, without beginning, without middle, without end. It is unstitched. So hence it is Dashahin. He is Traigunyatit and beyond the three states. And hence in every form, and he's white and pure. And my dhoti and Hari compare. Now, is this an example of good poetry? But Hari does not differentiate. And he says, what is the intention behind writing that poetry? You could write great poetry insulting divinity. So the Bhagavat says that all this is Shrama eva hi kevalam. If you don't have that right intention in your mind, it is just mere effort gone waste. So he does not differentiate between Sukabis and Kukabis. What he says is, what is the intention behind writing their poetry? And if he sees that sparkle of love, he is all yours. And then Yaha prakruta mahipala sabhav. Even a good mortal king would have these qualities. Then what to say of Shri Ram? Okay. Satha sevaka ki priti ruchi rakhi Rama krupalu. O compassionate Shri Ram, please keep in mind the love that I have towards you. And now again a very beautiful metaphor. Upalakiye jala jana jehi sachiva sumati kapi bhalu. He is the one who, with the help of the kapis and the bhalus, when the ocean was being crossed and the bridge was being built, he converted the stones into jalajan, into something that with which they could cross the ocean. So, which is to say that he started floating the stones because of his divine grace, so that they could cross the ocean. The grace was his, but the credit goes to the Vanar Sena, who put forth the bridge. And hence, that all graceful Shri Ram may shower his grace similarly, because I am like that Kapi Bhalu. Now, there is a very important subtext to it. Upal, a stone, is very heavy. And he's saying that you make it float for me. This also means that divinity is not really accessible. You have to make it accessible. So, to put it in a different context, divinity or भगवत तत्व गंभीर है, गूढ़ है, अगोचर है, असमंजस है, वो हमारी समझ के परे है. But it is my mati, my heaviness that brings it down and makes it accessible. So Goswami ji is saying that because I am dumb, I will make it accessible for everyone and open the doors of divinity for you, just like the heavy stones were made to float by the grace of divinity. So I am a mere stone, but the grace of divinity will allow my poetry to give you access to it. Hauhu kahavata sabu kahata Rama sahata upahas. And I am going to be a laughing stock. So this is also Kataksha on the Pandits of the time who had a very strong critique of what he was trying to do. So hauhu kahavata sabu kahata Rama sahata upahas. There will be a lot of criticism on the work that I'm now going to write. And Sri Ram will still take care and will quietly tolerate all that criticism. Sahiba Sita Natha so Sevaka Tulsidas. What will the criticism be? That the Lord is someone like Sri Ram, the husband of Sita ji. उनका सेवक भी तो उस दम का होना चाहिए, लेकिन सेवक कौन है? गोस्वामी जी. So people will make a laughing stock of me saying, where is the divinity and where is the servant who's serving it? So I will become a laughing stock because I'm trying to access something that is beyond my reach. But he, in his divine grace, will also tolerate that upahas and embrace me as his sevak. Okay, fairly simple Doha Chaupai block. Any questions on this or any remarks? If not, then we'll quickly try and cover the next Doha Chaupai block set and then conclude for the day. अति बड़ी मोरी ढिठाई खोरी सुनि अघ नर कहूं नाक सकोरी समुझि सहम मोहि अपडर अपने सो सुधि राम की नहीं सपने सुनि अवलोकि सुचित चख चाही भगति मोरी मति स्वामी सराही कहत न साई होई हियनी की रिझत राम जानि जन जी की रहति न प्रभु चित चूक किए की करत सुरति सय बारहिए की जेहि अघ बधे व्याध जिमि बाली फिर सुकंठ सोई कीन्ही कुचाली सोई कर तूति विभीषण केरी सपने हूँ सोन राम ही हेरी ते भरत ही भेटत सन माने राजसभा रघुबीर बखाने प्रभु तरु तर कपिडार पर ते किए आप समान तुलसी कहूँ न राम से साहिब सील निधान राम निकाई रावरी है सब ही कौनीक जो यह साची है सदा तौनी को तुलसीक एहि विधि निज गुण दोष कही सब ही बहुरी सिरुनाई बरनौ रघुबर बिसद जसु सुनि कली कलुषन साई. So at the end of Doha Chaupai block 29, this entire grand Vandana section comes to a final closure. So he did the Vandana of the gods, then he did the Nam Vandana. Between the two, there was this self-doubt emerging, and then from that, a certain confidence that he'll be able to access the story and tell it. Then the beautiful Nam Vandana, of course. And now, after Doha Chaupai block 29, he begins with this flowing stream of what the Ram Katha means to him, which we will do from the next week. Okay. Ati badi mori dhithai khori, suni agha narakahu naka sapori. So even hell will refuse to accept me because I am so stinky with my badhai, with my grand claim that I'm going to write the Ram Katha, that I know I will go to hell, but even when I go to hell, hell will turn away its nose, saying, no, 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 I don't want this person over here, because he is so stinky and so full of pride that even hell will throw me out. So, Suni Agha, listening to my pap, Narakahu na kasakori, even hell will turn away its nose, saying, I don't want this person in my company, in hell. Samujhi sahama mohi apadara apane, so sudhi Rama keenhi nahi sapane. So I was afraid of this even in my dreams, but I knew that this is a continuous torment for me. But the divine grace of Sri Ram is such that he did not even in his dreams even once think that I would not be capable of doing this. So the bhakta is in doubt, but Sri Ram, seeing the intensity and the purity of the intention of the bhakta, is utterly confident. What a strange way to put things. That divinity is confident even though the bhakta is not confident. Which is to say, yoga kshemam vahamyaham, Bhagavad Gita. So there was this story in which a person who was, anxious, but he did not really believe in divinity, but he was so caught up in the entrapments of the material world that he went to a guru. So the guru told him कि भाई आपकी सब चिंता भगवान पे छोड़ दो, क्योंकि जो चिंता है वही चिता है, चिंता आपको जला रही है, चिंता भगवान पे छोड़ दो. And then he came after 2 months saying कुछ तो फर्क हुआ नहीं. And then the guru says, हाँ आपने चिंता सचमुच छोड़ दी, or you just made an offering, you made a prayer, but still continued worrying about it. It is that continuous worry of things that kills us more than the thing itself, which is not to say that we should not take care of it, but we have to let go of the worry, offer it to divinity, and then the Gita says, yoga kshemam vahamyaham, I will take care of all your needs as long as you put them on me with utter sincerity. This is not an escape route, because it can be misinterpreted, and hence I'm repeating it. It just means to stop worrying and just do your thing. So divinity was not worried even in his dreams. Now this is this is again Tulsidas ji's slightly impish humor. We have seen that Ram is the Turiya Avastha, which is beyond the Jagrat, Swapna and the Sushupti. And he's saying that divinity in his dreams, in his Swapna Avastha, also did not think that I will not be able to do it, because his grace was showering on me. Suni avaloki suchita chakha chahi, bhagati mori mati swami sarahi. But Shri Ram has seen this, has seen the intention of my bhakti, which is why he has done that grand opening, saying he does not differentiate between a Sukhabi and a Kukabi. He sees the intention. And now he says, he completes that loop saying, he has seen my sincerity, he has seen my intention, and it is that intention and sincerity, Swami Sarahi, that is praiseworthy even for my Swami. He doesn't really care about how intelligent I am. Rahatina Prabhu Chita Chuka Kieki, Karata Surati Saya Parahieki. So even if you commit mistakes, divinity does not remember them as long as your intentions are clean, or at least that compass is oriented towards the right direction. For example, he killed Bāla, and then Sugriv also started committing the same mistake as Bāla. Remember that when the Sena had to cross the ocean and go on the other side, Sugriv was basically having a good time. And then Lakshmana was sent to search for him. And then Lakshmana said that if you don't come now, I'll have to kill you. So there was a certain fear that was shown to Sugriva. Very beautiful word that Goswami ji uses for that. Sukanta, jiska kant sundar hai, jiski griva is the throat, sundar hai, wah Sugriv. So even Sugriv did the same mistake that Bāla committed, and Bāla was killed for that. But because Sugriv had taken recourse to devotion and his compass was at least oriented towards that, he was forgiven. Soi karatuti Bibhishana keri. Even Bibhishan did that same mistake, because we are all mere mortals. So remember that when Vibhishana came on the other side, he was having the good intentions of being on the right side of Dharma. At the same time, because he was born in the demonic clan, he was wondering, okay, when Ravana is defeated, who will be king? So he had that intention also of being king. And the moment he comes on this side, Sri Ram does his tilak saying, from now on, you are the king of Lanka. Even when Ravana is reigning, Simply, he recognizes this, conflict in the mind of Vibhishan, embraces him, and opens the path of divinity for him. So, soi karatuti Vibhishana keri sapane hu sona Rama hi heri te Bharata hi bhetata sanamane. And when he met Bharata, it is in the presence of Bharata that he gave great honors to Vibhishan, because he looked not at his conflicted mind, but the sincerity of his devotion, even though his mind was slightly conflicted, saying, well, who's then going to rule Lanka after Ravan is gone? Prabhu taru tarakapi darapara. So he's saying that when Sri Ram was in the forest, basically he was resting below the tree and the monkeys were on the branches atop. So the bhakta, as it were, is carried on the head by Bhagwan, is what he's saying. That the monkeys, simply because they are on the branches, they are as if sitting on the head of Sri Ram. So the bhaktas, if their intention is clean and good, are taken on the head by Sri Ram. Prabhu taru tara kapi dara para te kiye aapu saman, tulasi kahuna Ram se sahib sila nidhal. And looking at all this, Goswamiji is saying that there is no second to Ram. There is no one like Ram who is a sea of good character, compassion, and complete non-transactional love. Ramanikai Ravari hai sabahi ko nik. So, jo yah sachi hai sada to niko tulasik. So he's basically saying that now we have established for a fact that you do not differentiate between anyone. Your compassion is sincere. Your compassion is not sincere. Your compassion is available to anyone who is sincere, and it is an open door, so much so that it is a highway without doors. It is just a free-flowing stream of the Ganges of compassion. You just need to take a few drops on it and change yourself and transform. And Tulsidas ji now is saying, I know this to be true, so all my self-doubts are addressed. I know that this grace will shower on me, and I am roaring and ready to go and tell the katha. Ehibidhi nijaguna dosha kahi sabahi bahuri sirunai. In such manner, I have told all my limitations and, if any, the good qualities that I might possess, which is the bhakti, of course. I bow down and tell that with utter honesty. So it is said that one way of addressing all the wrong things that you have done is to openly talk about them. The punishment is to make your wrong deeds public. So he's saying, I have, my book, life is like an open book. I have told all everything good and bad that exists in me. And with that person, because Bhagwan ke hamam mein sab nange hai, everyone is standing naked in the kingdom of divinity. You cannot hide anything. So he's saying, I've openly told what all my limitations are, the kind of person I am. Baranau Raghubara Bisadajasu Sunikali Kalushanasai. But even then, after bowing down to Sri Ram, I am now going to tell you all, O listeners, the beautiful and bright story of the most prominent member of the Raghu clan, Raghubar, which is Sri Ram, which will destroy all your trappings of Kali Yuga. And with this bang, he then begins with the way in which the katha was told. Jagabalika jo katha suhai, Bharadvaja muni barahi sunai. So we'll talk about these four narrators, Yagyavalkya, Bharadvaj, etc., from the next session onwards, in which that entire narrative of what the katha means, it is a huge metaphor running into many Doha Chaupai blocks. It's a very beautiful metaphor in the Balkand. We'll begin with that from the next session. All right, 5 minutes. Any questions, remarks, anything that you all want to ask? We'll open it now. I'll stop screen sharing.
No, just for remarks that in our Indian culture, when we name a child, a lot of importance is given to it. So it's coming from our scriptures, that the importance of a name. And they say when you name somebody, either the qualities of that name gets imbibed in the personality. So we do have it in our culture itself.
Very true, very true.
I was just reminded of the Srimad Bhagavat, when you said that when Vibhishan actually goes there, there was a little that kida of that intent that I should get the Gadi of Lanka after Ravan is gone, which was a certainty in his mind. And likewise, I think even in the case of Dhruv. Because when Dhruv is actually, when he goes to the forest, when he is denied the right to sit on the lap of his father, who's the king, the rightful thing. And even though he later on realizes that I am in front of Parabrahma, and my intent of this tapascharya was about gaining something material, but by which, of course, it's too late, which is why he gets the Dhruv position. He doesn't really get the moksha that he could have otherwise asked for. So he's near God, but he's not really absorbed into God. Is what I have been told.
Yeah, so we saw that when we talked about the Dhruva story last time, right?
We did.
Yeah. So
And
this is
Prahlad.
other important part, you don't have to be in that complete blissful state, being a realized, wherever you are, whatever station you are, you can start. And you also need to remember not to have any false notions about ourselves. We will fall back, but the doors of grace are open. No one is blocked.
Yeah.
That's the real message of the whole thing.
I to feel that I'm everything. I'm Arthati Bhakt, I am Jnani Bhakt, I'm at different times, I'm all these different versions of bhakti.
It's just like the four yogas, there's a certain simultaneousness of them, they all exist at the same time. It's not like we are in one state or the other always.
It's actually like the 5 gunas as well, where sometimes tamasic, sometimes rajasic, and hopefully more sattvic.
Yes, the 3 gunas, yeah.
3, sorry, yeah.
Or like the 4 ashramas, right? In a way, we live them all simultaneously nowadays. We can be in the brahmachari when we are doing the studies, we can be doing grihast, we can be in, slightly more vanaprasth mode when we are retreating. So it's interesting, this simultaneous layered circularity of all of it.
That's
true. But as far as the ashrams are concerned, just one remark there. I mean, the yogas traditionally offer simultaneity, but the ashrams don't. So it's a one-way street. So from a brahmachari to a gruhastha to a vanaprasthi to a sannyasi is a one-way street. So you can't be a sannyasi and then say, oh, now I think I need to settle down and become a gruhasthi. You remember the story of Jnaneshwar's parents. They became sannyasis. He came back to his wife, and then the children were born, and then they were outcasts. So the ashrama in the traditional way is a one-way street. You can only move from one towards the other. So if you're not sure whether you want to be a sannyasi or not, rather stay in grahastha. Which is why, interestingly, the Dandi Swamis are given Dandi sannyas only at a very late stage, once they've stayed for 20-25 years in an ashram, once it is made sure that Vairagya has set in. Which is why all the charlatans that come off as sadhus happens because you go into that state and fall back. But if you stay with a guru for 20-25 years and then he has really tested you and Vairagya has set in, only then you are initiated into sannyas. If that's the pathway, then the chances are less. It's all probability, but the chances are less. But Simran, yes, you're on a more contemporary sense, you're right. We are in the state of mind, we can be in these 4.
It's more about the state of mind. I mean, I don't even know about sannyas, frankly, but at least the first 3, like, if in a more contemporary sense is what I was thinking, a state of mind where we can be moving from one or the other.
Right.
In the way we live our life.
Right.
So you can have karma sannyas, for example. I mean, in the sense that, like, Janak Raja was essentially, he was a param jnani, but he continued to be a king. He continued to be all of that. So I'm just saying that maybe, especially as Simran says, in the current scenario, right, this linearity of the ashrams is really difficult. It's not impossible, but difficult. Perhaps, conceptually, you can embrace that.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
the 4 purusharthas, I feel, are simultaneous.
for sure. I also feel that, right? I mean, like
Artha Kama Moksha. I mean, Artha Kama.
moksha, I mean, dharma for sure.
Because in the matrix of dharma, you will then Artha Kamic so much more purposeful, meaningful, and evolutionary for the soul, for the human. And moksha is so. But I'm saying that there's no linearity, there's no sequential aspect to that. It's happening all the time. Is moksha is not an end goal. Moksha is woven into everything we are doing on a, every day. At least that's the goal. That's the aim.
I guess it gets reinterpreted in the Kali Yuga is the yuga that we are in, right? That's the whole thing. It's a slight, I think they even talk about that it's those very clear differentiations perhaps have kind of been muddled in a way here, right? So
Yeah.
let's see what Santosh is
But I
putting.
think what Santosh was saying, the Satyug, what was predominant changed in the Dwapar and the Treta and now Kali. So I think as the context changes, interpretations also, I think it also is rooted in certain cultural nuance and is a kind of a natural form of evolution as well. How we live, how we think, how we earn a living, and so on and so forth. So it's
And nothing is fixed. I mean, see, we don't want to be a taxidermy culture in which we say that this is how things were. Go to a museum and see how life was. The very definition of a living culture is things will change. Do you step into the same river twice? Never. But still you're stepping into the same river always. Culture is like that. It is flowing, it is changing, but at the same time, it has a certain form that you can clearly say is eternal. But within that form, things are changing every day and day in, day out. And I think it is there where we have to get in our vivek and say, okay, is this change something that is in tune with the frame? Or is this a note that fits in the rag, or is it out of place? But that raga framing is there, and you can explore it whichever way you want.
yeah, very true.
Just
Dharma itself is such a huge debate, right? I mean, that again, while scripturally so much has been written about dharma, but it's also becomes gray in some areas, contextualized, and the outcome becomes different.
Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhaya mahajano nityagata sapantha. The essence of dharma is extremely difficult to tell. See, the reason over here is, I mean, we of course know the advantages of a Napoleonic code in which you establish that the law is same for all. But that's a very objective way of looking at it. We have said that our tradition believes in subjectivity, that the person is at the center, not anything outside it. So dharma can be different for the same person at different points in time. At the same point in time, different people will have different dharmas. We both might do the same thing at the same time. One might be dharmic, the other might be adharmic. So it's not what you do, it's the intention, it's the context, it's what is triggering you to do that, how well can you handle those triggers. So many layers are there in dharma, and hence understanding the essence of dharma is so difficult that the only choice you have is mahajano nityagata sapan. What is the path? The path is to follow where great saints have gone.
Bhagavad Gita also says the same thing, right? That your dharma, your nature, your dharma is clearly not somebody else's. That immediately goes into...
Yeah. Preeti, I just want to let you know, because this idea, this big idea, complex concept of dharma has been so beautifully unfolded and analyzed in the Mahabharata by Nima, who's our teacher, Vedanta teacher. I have to say, like, she's actually going to start the Mahabharata again. We're just towards the end, and I joined only halfway. I don't think I have ever experienced anything so special, is to just through the stories, the way she relates, she talks about them, and it is exceptional.
Wow. Let me know when she starts again.
You must, I would say that only because when you talk about dharma, it is really when it's opened up, you see all the aspects and the gray areas, but you see it in real, right? In the sense that there's a person, Yudhishthir, and what is his dharma like, versus a Bhishma and versus, anyone else. It is fascinating. I would highly recommend it. I'm going to join
it. Because I have a very hard time reading the Mahabharata. After reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, which came after Mahabharata, I have a very hard time.
You must then do it. I think he's brilliant at it. So we'll let you know. I'll let you know on the group or somehow.
I really love that. Thank you.
Start in a month or 2 months. Yeah.
So it is said about the Ramayana that it is, a description of the world what the world should be. The Mahabharata is what the world is. and the Bhagavad teaches you to just be happy however it is or it should be. So there are very three different perspectives on that. Okay, we are running late, but I just wanted to make a short note because there were many questions which were also asked on personal chats as to how is this katha, is it different from the kathas that have been traditionally done, etc. And I've always said that no, nothing that we are doing over here, our only claim to authenticity is the lack of originality, is what I've said, that this is the way the traditional katha that has been told. But then someone, I think, had texted saying, can you get us some examples of this? So this is an extract from the Manasank of the Gita Press, which has told of how the kathas were done. So just a few sentences from them. I'll just not read too much. So इनमें से एक ने यमुना तट पर श्री वृंदावन में श्री रसखान जी को 3 वर्ष में मानस की कथा सुनाई. So the katha was going on for 3 years. मंदाकिनी तट पर चित्रकूट में दूसरे तुलसीदास जी और उनके शिष्य श्री किशोरीदास जी ने संत मंडली के मध्य में 12 वर्ष में संपूर्ण कथा मानस की कहकर समाप्त की. काशी जी में गंगा तट पर बाबा रघुनाथ दास जी ने 7 वर्ष में और गोदावरी तट पर पंचवटी क्षेत्र में मोरेश्वर पंत कवि जी, महाराष्ट्रियन सेंट, 9 वर्षों में मानस की कथा सुनाई. सो 5 years, 3 years, 12 years, 9 years. श्री सरयुजु की तट पर मूल गोसाई चरित के रचयिता बाबा वेणी माधव दास जी ने और वाराह क्षेत्र संगम पर उनके शिष्य केशव दास जी ने क्रमशः 10 वर्षों में यह कथा कहकर मानस प्रेमियों को सुनाई. So the tradition of the katha being told for years together is very much there, or was very much there, and we are just trying, that pipilika, that little ant that tries to cross the big river because of the bridge that great kathakars have built. It's the same thing we are doing. We are these little ants trying to cross that sea of the katha, thanks to these commentarial bridges that the kathakars have built. With that note, we'll stop today with our closing prayer. यत्र यत्र रघुनाथ कीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारी परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम्.
Thank you so much. As always, was wonderful.